Hello everyone, welcome to our second day of Aido Network International Business and Prosperity Forum 2020, brought to you by Aido Network International and Raya TV Kenya. Remember, today is all about culture. That is why I'm dressed on our own cultural attire. Welcome. The day will be opened by His Royal Highness Taki Teko Tusuru of Ga Kingdom, and we'll later have a welcome speech by Cynthia Luita of Africa Chamber of Commerce, Scandinavia. Our keynote speaker today will be His Royal Highness Gozebo III of Baholohe Bamakola Bamashishi of South Africa. Later we'll have a speech by Bishop Maponga. Welcome. Our topic today will be how to promote the interaction between development and culture in Africa, hosted by Princess Tsepi. Welcome and enjoy the day. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my fellow royals here in gathered, ladies and gentlemen, I am as passionate and committed as most of us here, and I dare mention that our predecessors were equally passionate about the plight of our people. What the issue has been till now is the workings towards changing this narrative. We are very much informed on the subject of international trade and investment, especially where Africa is involved. This has never been on equal terms, though seemingly so on the surface of it, and until this disparity is corrected, our efforts will remain as hopes and aspirations. Fellow royals, we are charged to look closely and deeper within, difficult as it may seem, to comprehensively develop what we have into what we need and share the value thereof with the rest of the world. The Ghana state has many capital projects and seeks to indulge investor interest to partner us in implementation of these projects by PPP or BOT arrangement. Surely, we can't wait to see the investor community engage us in that regard. I have delegated my competent officials of the office of the government to work with you on the strategic business plan and opportunities thereof, short-term, mid-term, and long-term prospects. Ladies and gentlemen, let me digress a bit to talk about our culture, our people, and our heritage. Ga, the history of our migration has enriched our values and fortified our resolution on many fronts till date. Our cultural system acknowledges the power of our diversity and values on human dignity. Our experience is evident by hospitality. We are the capital city of Ghana, Accra. Thank you, and I wish you well. Tra, no manye, Abba.
Thank you so much from His Royal Majesty King Taki Teko Suru II from Ga Manse. Thank you for such a wonderful message. And indeed, we will be seeing more of him, as he has already said that he has committed his competent team to Aido. That's what I was talking about or referring to earlier on when I said the Aido is growing. It's growing in all spheres and in where we are unique at, the cultural institutions or royals, as others refer to them. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to now really fly out of Africa and land in United Kingdom, where we are going to find Mrs. Cynthia Luita from African Chamber of Commerce in Scandinavia. Madam, the mic is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, Majesty, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I'm pleased to welcome you to the second day of Aido Business and Investment Forum. Africa is ready to partner for prosperity, with the focus today on culture and development. Today, indeed, Africa is ready to partner for prosperity, and this forum offers a platform to the business sector, such as the African Chamber of Commerce, to partner with the different kingdoms in Africa for the development of their communities. I would like to thank our co-host, Aido Network International, for their tireless work in organizing this great forum. The African Chamber of Commerce in Scandinavia highly values the cooperation with Aido. The collaboration between the African Chamber of Commerce is born from a desire to revitalize integrity and sincerity in African projects. Thus, we believe that while there are many challenges that were so eloquently described by our panelists yesterday, we have concepts like Ubuntu, which can be used as a catalyst for development. We have a rich cultural heritage and a built environment to catalyze social and economic development in Africa. The initiative is a collaborative endeavor between the African Chamber of Commerce in Scandinavia and Aido Network International. This platform and collaboration is designed to educate our brothers and sisters, people of African descent living abroad, to use as a vehicle to navigate some of the bottleneck, red tape, and hindrance to bankable projects that deserve to be funded. We can help fund those projects. So talk to us. We encourage you to use Aido and the African Chamber of Commerce as an extension of the African voice abroad. So we are here for you. There is an item in Africa that suggests that if you run alone, you can run fast. But if you run together, we can run far. Until these challenges are solved, we invite you, kings and queens of Africa, to run with us. We honor you, we value you, because you are the guardians of our African tradition and culture. Cultural heritage is a powerful development asset that can help attract tourism, bring revenue, generate local economy, promote inclusion, boost cultural diversity, and reinvent territorial identity. So welcome to Aido Business and Investment Forum. Africa is ready to partner for prosperity. I thank you all and would like and wish to work with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for those words. We know now that we have a home at ACCS. Thank you very much for that wonderful partnership.
I'm glad for the opportunity given to me this afternoon to be addressing the community in line with agriculture and food sustainability programs around the African continent. In the words of the Honorable from Mpumalanga, Mashishini, who has given us the very robust introduction and the remarks from the President, I am excited to note that we are now, as Africans, beginning to have a conversation which entails food, sustainability, governance, economics, fashion, culture, and education of the African child. As you, all of you on the platform, you have cell phones. And we all know by now that you cannot use an iPhone software to be running a Samsung hardware. By that I mean that the African problems need to start finding African solutions. I want to outline one or two issues before I do a conclusion of how we must unite and work together. On the top side, I want to outline very critically the importance of the African child being aware of where they are. Where are they coming from and where are they going? I want to start off the conversation, since you have a strong footprint in agriculture. My point of departure would be indigenous seeds. I say it again, indigenous seeds, indigenous crops, indigenous seeds, indigenous crops. While I was doing a research preparing for your presentation, I discovered that Switzerland actually has a vault somewhere in the mountains of Switzerland where they are keeping indigenous seeds and crops. We know most of the crops that we are now eating and the foods that we are eating are actually genetically modified foods. By that I mean to say the genetically modified foods like millis, umbila, which is our maize meal, which makes pap, mchima, sadza in Shona. These kind of crops and these kind of plants, you cannot harvest them and plant them again. Why is it so? Because the SEDCO and Monsanto organizations that are supplying seeds have decided to make it possible through their genetical modification that you cannot be planting every season the harvest of your own plants. I want to challenge Aido that while we are doing food issues and food sustainability programs and projects, that we also look at the indigenous seeds, which are organic seeds in their own right. So that come a time when I plant my millis, I can harvest my millis. And from the millis that I harvest, that's what my grandfather used to do. Every harvest season, you would pick up the cobs of millis that are strong and with seeds that are nice and healthy, even groundnuts, even sorghum, even rapoko, even wheat and etc. And then he would take these seeds and say, these ones were not eating. He puts them aside. Because come the rain season next year, these are the seeds that you would put back in the ground and you would plant them and they germinate again. Are you aware that now you cannot harvest any crop, many of the crops on the high street market? You cannot harvest your apples and have seeds from those apples. You cannot harvest avocados and have seeds from those avocados. You cannot harvest your corn and have seeds from that corn, because they want to direct that the market must be driven towards an industrialized market where constantly you must be depending on the people who are giving you the seeds. I want to challenge Aido that be the first one on the African continent who can walk through Africa, identify indigenous seeds that we have, and from these indigenous seeds, please preserve them. Create a bank for indigenous seeds. Because once people have seeds, they have enough to plant for the next season. And having said that, it is important that we understand that genetically modified foods are not sustainable for the African economy. Because before every rain season, then the people on the ground must still put a budget aside to buy seeds to plant in the next season. And therefore, and we also understand that with these genetically modified foods, they are not healthy, because manipulation of human psychological, physiological behaviors, we understand war at its highest level, that food can also be used as a weapon of war. And why is it that Africa is being bombarded with genetically modified foods when the Western world, the European world is moving towards the organic foods? So our production lines from our greenhouses and etc. must begin to speak to indigenous greenhouses also. So our greenhouses must not just be for mass production, that we want to produce so many tonnage from so much a hectareage. And of that hectareage, we know that what we are producing is neither healthy, is neither sustainable, and is not productive in the long term and in the medium term. And I want to challenge you again and advise us on this platform that with one grain of, or one blade of grass, you can toothpick your teeth and remove the plaque that is in your teeth. But when you have a bundle of grass, you can sweep a house, you can thatch a house, not with one blade of grass. You thatch a house with multiple blades, multiple pieces of grass that are put together. You can sweep a house not with one blade of grass. You need a bundle of those blades of grass. You cut it in the center, you cut it at the back, then you tie it up, you make that traditional broom. What am I talking about? Unity is power. When we come together as Africans, we come together as farmers, we come together as agronomists, we come together as indigenous farmers to begin to look at African problems and look for African solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, when Europeans came here for colonization and we fought the battles of liberation, democracy was not our problem. Our problem was fighting for land, fighting for sustainability, and fighting for self-sustenance. These political leaders said to us, I was in Zimbabwe, I was a young little boy, aged 10, 11, and 12, and I heard the slogans over the radio. We are bringing Zimbabwe back. These military vehicles that you see, we are going to convert them into trucks that are carrying manure into our own fields. We did not go to war from Ghana to South Africa to fight for democracy. But when these political leaders came onto the platform, they said, we've brought democracy for you. But it was never an issue to us. Why am I saying that? Because the democratic system does not respect indigenous knowledge systems, does not respect indigenous seeds and agriculture, does not respect indigenous culture, does not respect indigenous medicines, does not respect indigenous religions and spirituality, does not respect indigenous spirituality in all its totality. And we look at food sustainability as a solution to the African problems. And while we are looking at that as a solution, my submission is that we needed to start finding African solutions to African problems. As long as we are using Apple software to deal with the Samsung hardware, we are not going to survive. Because our grandfathers, my grandfather who brought me up, Joshua was his name, he never went to the shops to buy seeds. He never went to the shops. He died without a bank account. But he was sustainable. The day he died, he had 180 cattle in his kraal. Another 60 or 80 goats that were running around. Another 90 or 95 sheep that were running around. And another 500 flock of, birds, chickens that were running around. He had barns for food. He had barns for seeds. And he even knew how to dig the ground and put some certain herbs. You pardon me, I was too young then to understand what he was putting in, but he would go to the bush and cut some bushes and branches and dump them in this hole, then put all the fresh products in the hole, then cover it up. A refrigerator that was naturally designed, where after the season of harvesting, we could still go back into those barns and go back into the ground, dig up the ground and pick up these crops and pick up these reserves and eat fresh vegetables, fresh pumpkins, fresh cucumbers, fresh. And we survived as a people. So I suggest that in the midst of us looking for solutions that are in the future, which are IT based, which are technologically based, we also needed to step back a little bit and see how do we dry our vegetables, how do we dry our sweet cane, how do we dry some of the meats and etc., so that without using technologies such as electricity and refrigerators, our people can actually have a food bank that is sustainable, that is utilizing and using the methods of the past. When we unite as Africans, we can be able to find a solution towards the future. But when we constantly imbibe, collect, adopt, assimilate civilizations that are Western in nature, from medicine through education and politics, we'll still discover that at the peak of our balance sheets showing a positive, our culture and our spirituality will constantly be at a negative. To echo on the words that are given by the honorable guest from Mpumalanga, we have the land, we have the soil. And if we have the land and the soil, the question is, how do we make our success story speak to the indigenous knowledge that we already have, the technological advancements that we are now receiving, and food security banks that are in the future? But having said that, I want to challenge all of us and say, as Africans, we need to start finding a common place of unity. How do we unite? How do we come together? How do we share notes? How do you preserve food in the South? How do you preserve food in the North? How do you preserve food in the West? How do you preserve in Africa, by the way? And how do you survive? I'm looking at the tribes of the Bushmen, the Kalahari, the Khoi, and the Sons. The amount of knowledge that they have from ancient historical past, thousands of years, an accumulation of information and knowledge. In our generation, within the next 50 years, this tribe will be wiped out on the face of the earth. They're not going to be remembered again. But when you wipe out such an indigenous tribe, what are they going away with? They are going away with all the information that they had. Before we wipe them off, can we go closer to them, learn from them, take notes from them? How do you survive the forests? Which trees are in the bush here that you can eat from? Which herbs in the bush here can give you water? Which herb can you bite and eat and you will not be hungry for the next 2 weeks? Which one can you eat? You will not be thirsty for the next 2 days. This information is still with us as Africans. And I want to challenge Aido, in the midst of us moving into urbanization, food security, and etc., for the people that are already sustainable in the town areas, I want to throw us back again and say, what are we doing in terms of speaking to the indigenous systems so that we can harvest the past, apply it in the present, and preserve it for the future? Unity is what we need. There's enough knowledge systems in Africa which we can utilize. Again, I want to say, from Algeria to South Africa, Aido must also have a research center where constantly we are having conversations with indigenous people so that we can harvest their knowledge, harvest their fashion, harvest their culture, harvest their spirituality, and all these elements put together, including education. Harvest all this stuff and preserve it somewhere, because Aido will become a hub of knowledge systems, both of the past, the present, and the future, which are sustainable. But unity is our password. How do we begin to come together as Africans? And as we are coming together, are we coming together on an African agenda, or are we coming together on a European agenda? The question is, our development, is it African-based or European, so that we can focus into the future? Honorable guests here with me today on the Aido platform, I want to challenge us that our development must not only become colonial, Western, and European, but our development must also begin to look at how does Aido respond to African issues so that we can come with African solutions. Having said that, unity is power. Those that are in the lake regions can give us water and fish technologies. Those that are in the desert can give us desert technologies. Those that are in the rainforests of the Equatorial Guinea, for example, Gambia, for example, Congo, parts of Tanzania and parts of Kenya and parts of Uganda can give us technologies that are in the jungle. If we allow this generation to go with colonial industrialization, we may find that the next generation will be bankrupt of the knowledge that we have in our hands. It's unfortunate. Those that have money don't have ideas, and those that have ideas don't have money. I find myself trapped in that environment. in as much as we are thinking of development. If a bushman should walk up to us and say, I don't want your food, I don't want your clothes, I don't want your education, I don't want your technology, I just want to live as a bushman, does democracy allow them to be what they want to be? Because democracy says freedom to be as a baseline of human rights. Having said that, we needed to start uniting as Africans. And our unity does not put aside our diversities. So we are different, but we share the same continent. I want to challenge and ask Aido the question, what do we do as a global organization while we are pushing forward? How do we draw back a little bit so that we can collect enough information that galvanizes the African continent so that we can move towards a common goal? I thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to address you. Not everything that I say might be acceptable to you, but in all honesty, I have a strong passion that is sitting in my spirit that tells me that our success is based on our unity. With those few words, I want to thank you and encourage you, and thank you one more time for giving me an opportunity to address you. But our solutions for the future can actually be incubated in our knowledge of the past. Sankofa, look backwards and you'll see the future. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Bishop Maponga, for such wonderful, very strong words, very passionate words. Moving right along, we're still in the continent, we're still in the Southern Africa, where we are going to be hearing a keynote speech promoting interaction between culture and development from His Royal Highness Kgosibo III of Bagolokwe Bamakola Bamashishing from Mpumalanga in South Africa. Your Highness, please take up the podium.
Okay, thank you. Before I continue, I would like Program Director to at least allow me to say it. I know you cautioned me to be a bit milder. But that I always caution people before I speak, that I normally call a spade a spade. But I have good news. I am compliant today. Madam Tepi, Princess Eromantatisi, by my own emphasis, whosoever arrived at the topic, surely or perhaps inadvertently wanted to lead us astray as the Africans. But if otherwise this is the work of a cohort group, then I would like to think this is a conspiracy that in a sense want us to continue with mimetic philopraxis, a terminology that will have to meet somewhere. For me, first, the topic and the fetish to promote an interaction between culture and development concedes that culture and development are antithetical, that they are enemies in themselves. And by that, it would mean that such would need an analgesic intervention, that is promotion of intervention. Second, for me, the topic in simple terms, and in the milieu of Africa and development, is that the dominant culture of the Western paradigm becomes much more paramount than the culture of us here in Africa. Now, I want us to negate this misnomer and peddling. Ladies and gentlemen, we have much more problems than the mere advocacy of interactions. Through you, Program Director, or is it the host? Let us build from what I just raised, that we as Africans continue to exist in a non-equilibrium, chaotic, turbulent, and non-linear Africa in a globalizing environment. Our culture continues to be defined in terms of Western epistemology, like I said before, and as such remain at the behest of an alien philosophy that seeks to dispute the existence of others, their philosophies, and their solutions. For example, Eurocentric sociology continues to peddle the dogma that culture is a dynamic way of life. Dynamic in the sense meaning it's ever-changing. I note this abhorrence with a pinch of salt and a slice of lemon, of course. Speaking of culture, program director, please take note that my cultural upbringing hasn't invaded me or devoured by Western and Eastern ways of life. On this message, please allow me, therefore, to extend my fraternal greetings to the custodians of our African land, upon which our culture is based. Through the president of Aido, Konegada, I follow protocol, therefore, by passing my greetings to the custodians of our land and culture thereof. I starkly herein refer to the queens and kings of this continent, now in audience or elsewhere, where they are. To you, Dr. Ganda, I say in my language, which is Sokolokwe, I send you, and move on to say, I hope I say this clearly. Yabila bakulu hawabeja, nabalagira di, mbaditumide, era de brejo abaduda or I will improve as time goes on. As they said in the disorder, Mr. President, Gobera Awakudu, Obedanti, Nabalagiranti, Mwana Bisa, Idokodi, Nawagamgaide, Awabonabon. While I will not belabor on the topic and its inadequacies, allow me, Program Director, to speak directly on what needs to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, please take note that it is sacrosanct to view culture as the foremost to development, and that for Africa, development must be African. The people must engineer and drive their development. On this, I say development must have an African face. It must be characterized by Ubuntu, wholeness, communalism. This will in a sense translate with business and anything else heavy and Afrocentric character. While I move forward in preparation for ending my speech, let me tell you where my chosen royal home is. I say home for the mere fact that there can be palaces where the rest is still the downtown. I envisage a situation where every home in my land is a palace. For now, I will remain in the masses. This is an argument for another day. Our pepperdom, which you call kingdom, is called Mashishi, and is found in the high plateaus of the province of Mpumalanga, in the southernmost of Azania, which is South Africa. This S1 policy has about 6 towns in it, and an innumerable number of townships, and apartheid terminology for hoods. It also has villages, all organized into districts. Within these social-cultural districts, there is an area called Shaka. This is where I am. In a nutshell, Shaka is a place endowed with rich mineral wealth. We're 10 kilometers away from where I am right now. We have mining complexes owned by Anglo, Exaro, Glencoe, and so forth. This is where you get your vanadium, platinum, gold, chromium, and so forth. It is said that beneath all these minerals we have oil. Perhaps people should start thinking about this. Like all areas in Mashishi, Shaka has the most fertile soil. Our soil holds most commercial farmers that produces food for people who are beyond Africa. We Africans here in the ground, we eat third-grade food, and fruits and vegetables. All the best goes to London. Whatever you had today, some of it might be from our area. We host commercial farmers, I've indicated them. Shaka is the only place known to have a number of endangered species. We have the gold leopard. We have the black leopard. All these are just 5 kilometers from where I am. Now, listen to this with regards to this marvelous place called Shaka. According to the World Bank, South Africa is the most unequal country in the world, whose African children face multi-dimensional poverty. I hope you know what multi-dimensional poverty is. Poverty in everything. This is in comparison to others in the population. With regards to Shaka on the above, you will weep gallons of tears. It is as if in this area, it is as if God got tired of us and deserted us. Now, again, in this wherein we are, we think that God has deserted us, and He also left us to be bound by thugs of Anglo-American, your Drenko, and other land thieves. Shaka continued to be an occupied land by land thieves. Now, this is despite Shaka's immense contribution to South Africa's GDP. Its people remain at the doldrums and fringes of everything. Nothing material accrues to the people of Shaka. The land is being raided minute of every hour by big businesses, gangsters and cahoots with government thuggery. Ladies and gentlemen, Shaka in Mashishi is nothing but a microcosm of what is happening Africa-wide. Thuggery concepts and innuendos are running the show. Now, this is the area I chose to settle at after having lived my entire life outside Mashishi as a result of the land dispositions that befell my antecedents, or what you call ancestors in common parlance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if we are to read the engineered maladies seen in Shaka and Western Africa, and in a view to have a foothold in the Globalizing World Program Director, let everyone take lessons from us, Makholoko and Mashishi, of course, under Magola, and of course, under me. 1. Let us note that indigenization is a pedestal and a target for development. Development cannot happen without recognizing the indigenous and their system. Here too with Makholoko, the indigenous hold a greater stake on anything from their land. No investor comes and holds more than 51% of proceeds here. The people owns all means of production. The people beneficiate 60% of all produced on the Shaka land, Red Mashishi land. No Shaka land is available for sale, but for lease with concessions. You lease our land, you leave it the way you found it. Tourism and non-polluting industries are the foremost drivers to our economy, without negating agriculture, of course. For every 1,000 square meters we allocate to you as for residential purposes, 100 square meters of that is reserved for subsistence. We produce what we eat. Each and every yard would have 100 square meter for its consumption. Our education is that bridges the gap between theory and practice, and as such countermands anything else. In Coordination Program Director, in upholding the principles and tenets of this conference, and thereby subscribing to its theme, guided of course by the mighty Aido, let us adopt the concept of counterculture, which is just a systemic way of life, not dynamic way. It's a systemic way of life that responds to natural conditions on the ground. These are also a set of variables, attitudes, and non-linear issues within the prevailing environment. I now end my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, with a triad of quotes from unrelenting Pan-Africanist and a nationalist. I am going to quote Kwame Ture, Johari Namani, and Simon Mwasa Kapwepwe. Ture advises us that the job of the unconscious is to make the unconscious conscious. Aido is conscious. His job is to make us the unconscious conscious. This is why Aido exists. It doesn't exist in isolation. On Ture's advice, Johari Namani notes that we are neglecting to address the impact of the racist colonial capitalist economy on the personality of the oppressed and dispossessed, of course, and that anything that neglects to address the latter is essentially apologist to the status quo. We cannot do this. Lastly, on all this, Kapwepwe avers that if we handle our independence very well as a continent, or chapters of the continent, as the president said, if we handle that very well, colonizers will not be back to our continent as investors, but as partners. Aido proceeds the idea that it is for partnership, and this is true. This is how we survive as a continent if we are to be in partnership with whoever wants to be part of us. Program Director, it is from these quotations that one will find solace, direction, and everything else to move forward. I thank you.
Very strong words, very passionate words, same as our King, His Royal Highness, who also has said he is sending Aido to go and have this mandate, run and bring back what the people need, his masses, which is all of us. And now you are also emphasizing, Bishop, to say, how do we, as Aido, respond to the African challenges, and how do we, as Aido, activate or bring the African solutions, not just, and how much of the past are we bringing into this future? We have heard you say. We have heard you say loud and clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Princess Tsepi. Yes, indeed, we are going to promote Africa and develop it through our culture. Thank you very much.